Hello, I am Quinny. Welcome to the channel. In this video today, guys, I'm going to be giving you my 3 top tips to buying on the SoRare market. If you enjoy the video, please don't forget to like it. It means someone else might find it, they might like it as well. And if you've watched more than one of these videos already, please do subscribe to the channel. It helps the channel grow and it means I can bring more of this content to you. Hope you enjoyed this one. I had a lot of fun doing it, and let's get stuck into it. Now, the first one I've just got it in my notes basically is buy today, right? Now, let me qualify that. Okay, so one of the most common kind of questions or messages that will come to me will be something like, "Oh, Quinny, when should I buy for next season? Is there any point buying this season's players?" That whole kind of dynamic. Okay, now, like I've spoke about in some videos recently, you should have been building a strategy around your kind of entry into SoRare once you're feeling through your rookie league, you're playing around with your common cards, as you're buying your 5 rares and unlocking your free one. If you haven't done that yet, links are down below. So you should be kind of building a strategy out. Now, what I'm showing you here on screen is me looking at the auctions, and you'll see there's only one filter been applied, and that is the favourites. Okay, so first of all, before I go any further with this, I always first of all check my favourites on the auctions. It's the first place I go to. I'm not one of these guys that will just open it up and look and see what's just about to tick away and maybe try and snipe something that's going to be a bit undervalued because there's just not that many eyes on the market. That's not really me. When I'm coming into auctions and whatever, I try and just find the guys that I'm following. You will follow hundreds if not thousands of players on SoRare, so you can use this filter because it's the best one for zoning in on the actual players you actually like, you know, and it helps you prioritise these purchases. That's not really the main point, but the main point is around whether it's you're thinking ahead to new season or you're leaving the old season behind, you're in this kind of situation. It depends on the target, number one, right? But most of the targets that I'm thinking about when people ask me that question, I've always been happy to buy them when I've bought them, you know. There's some ones, and again, I see a lot of people giving advice out at times, and I think sometimes it's one of these ones that isn't really said enough, but you need to make sure that your spending is controlled, right? Number one, right? So what I mean by that is when I'm depositing into SoRare, which I haven't done for a while, of course, but whenever I was doing that and whenever I would continue to do that, same with withdrawing, because of the associated fees around getting money in and out, because of the crypto sphere and Ethereum and all the rest of it, is I build these things up to then do it in as much bulk as possible. So once I've done that, you know, I'll be building up maybe some Ether in my Coinbase account and then wait till I've got a nice amount of Ether that I want to play in the market with, and then I'll switch it through. Alternative to that, of course, is you can just deposit through Ramp if those fees are more commensurate for you. But again, whether it's through Ramp directly or whether it's even coming from Ethereum in your Coinbase account, it's always better, number one, economically, to do these as infrequent as possible and as large sums as possible in terms of your budget, in terms of the amount you are going to look at. So again, for example, if you're going to maybe think about, right, over this month I'm going to deposit £100, and you might think, I'll do £25 a week or whatever. Doing £25 a week, you're going to throw a lot of money away. Even if you scale that kind of example up, the best thing for you to do is keep a hold of your £25, wait till it gets to £100 and then put that in, if that makes sense. Because it just means you drag less fees, you hemorrhage less money, you know. So anyway, with that in mind, when I'm looking at the market and I'm looking at a favourite player, and you will get into that kind of dilemma of, do I buy today? Is the price today the best price I'm ever going to get? Is it the right time to buy? Is he going to get back in the team? Is he going to hit the form I think he can hit? You know, you'll have a lot of these questions kind of floating around. And when it is one of my favourite players in terms of somebody that I've been scouting, someone who the price is at a level where I'm asking myself these questions, and if I can afford it and it is in line with the strategy I've outlaid to myself in my wee notepad or in my phone or whatever it is you do, then do it. Because these guys that are on your hit list, you cannot guarantee you will win the next auction. You cannot guarantee that they're going to come around again in a time frame that suits you for the game week you're thinking ahead to, or the transfer that you're forecasting, whatever it might be. Now, there is obviously, I see a lot of background to that in terms of make sure you're obviously spending your money responsibly and you're not being frivolous. But that's the main thing for me, is if it's something that you know you want, you know, and you know you can afford it, then it's one of those ones. I've never had a bad experience so far of biting the bullet on it. Probably the 2 worst trades I've had with that situation would be a Zaniolo, which I've now relieved myself of, and who was the other guy I bought that night? A Paulinho, which is now going to come back, and it's not actually looking like that bad a trade because of how everything's evolved and developed. The Zaniolo would have been the exact same, but in both those situations I bought guys without doing full research behind them. I was involved in a power hour, I was just getting right stuck into it. I thought I want these guys, didn't really check the secondary market in as much detail as I should have, and I ended up paying at that exact moment in time ahead of market rates, and then for a long time I couldn't really sell them because I'd bought them too far ahead, because I was just making a frivolous, like, oh yeah, kind of like Zaniolo, I think he's coming back into a good form, he should be back from injury, gets double injured. Paulinho didn't even check his injury status, didn't even check, and then these things, they do bite you in the bum. But if it's a guy that you're studying, you've been following him, this is the guy I need to get in my gallery, this is the midfielder that's going to put me up the leaderboards, or this is the guy, I can't believe no one else sees the potential in this guy, I think he's going to be a card for life, I'm going to pick him up, and all the rest of it. Those ones, as I say, with those two exceptions I've gave you, I didn't have that feeling about, I didn't have that much commitment into in terms of the decision as an individual decision itself. So when you're at that point where it is somebody that you've got full confidence in terms of what they'll do for you in the platform, best upside and the worst downside that you can forecast, and if it's an affordable price, just buy it, and then you can mark it off the to-do list, it goes into your gallery, and you can just enjoy having it. You're not in that stress mode of, oh fuck, there's no more auctions for a week on this guy, crass, when am I going to get him next? Especially if we're talking about super rares, that happens much more often than you realise until you get into that market space. The next one is multiples, okay? Now, what I've got on screen here for you now, again, the only filter that's on the marketplace is my favourites, and then what I've done is I've sorted, this is the secondary market, I've sorted it by cheapest, and I'm just trying to get one little page of 4 like that, just so you can see a nice little kind of broad example, okay? Now, with these 4 guys here, all of them you can make different pros and cons for, I'm sure, and all the rest of it, right? They're all very, very cheap, speculative cards for a few different reasons or a few different levels, okay? Now, when you're digging around and you're starting out your gallery, what you've got to remember is a lot of, everyone else is doing what you're doing. Everyone else is coming into the market with, less of a budget than maybe some of the people at the top end of the market in terms of guys who have been here a bit longer. So everyone's coming in and looking for those bargains. They're overturning those rocks. They're trying to, forecast a turn in form, a transfer, an uplift in price because they're maybe coming back from suspension. There's a new manager in town. Any number of things you care to think of. Okay. Now, when you come across that one that you've nailed, you've done the research, you've knocked it out of the park. You know this guy's academy background. You know who his agent is. You know all these different things. You're so heavily up in terms of the knowledge base, knowledge is power, on the individual player that you've identified. You can't believe how cheap they are. Oh my god, they're going to run away as soon as all this stuff comes to light, or if it happens, or if that does happen the way I think it does. Point being, when you get that feeling, right, and it will come to you at some point, you will find somebody, if you're putting the time in and you're really digging around, those cards you should be picking up multiples of. The fact is, the way that the platform is at the moment, the likelihood that you're going to find, let's say, half a dozen of those cards that you get that proper top level excited about discovering, number one, their ability, their potential, as well as their actual price that you can pick them up for, you're not going to find, I say, half a dozen anymore. You're not going to find 10, you're not going to find 20. So when you do find one, and you'll know that, I can't stress this enough, you'll know that little feeling when you get it, you should definitely maybe think about picking up a second or a third one, because that will give you in the future a bit of liquidity if your hypothesis, your forecast, your prediction comes to pass, where you can actually drop some of them back into the market, enjoy some of the cred, enjoy some of the profit, and then go back and reinvest that into the gallery or cash out for some profit, whatever your intentions are at that moment in time. But one of the big regrets I hear from a lot of managers, and you will hear from me, is sometimes the ones they didn't pick up when they knew it was too good to be true, and they're like, oh my god, what am I missing here with this guy? So I say, obviously keep within your means and all the rest of it, but like I've said already previously in the video, I'm assuming here you've got a strong strategy in mind, you're doing the research, you're going the extra mile, and when you get that little feeling, guys, don't blink on it. Buy the second one, buy 2, why not, buy 3, if the price, you can't believe it's that ridiculously low, then think about what you would pay for it. If all these things that you imagine would come to pass, would happen, the transfer goes through, the form rockets through the roof, whatever it is, he gets in the national team for his country, then, right, okay, well, I would imagine he would cost me 3 times what I could pay the now, right, okay, or what I could get him for the now. Then, if that's what you value him at, pay that, get 3 of them, but you know, and then you can keep one forever, you can sell one quite quickly on a high, and then a second one you can do with as you please, again, as long as that's within your means. What that will then bring you on to is the potential for you to stack out individual cards throughout your gallery in a SO5 situation. So even in the kind of short to mid term, depending on the exact strategy we're talking about, you can actually really kick off a really good SO5 run off the back of that as well, because if you've got you know, 3 copies, 2 copies of a card that hits 100 and they're in 2 of your teams, then you're not just benefiting from the 1 team you would have gotten anyway, you would actually benefit from 2 as a result. Depends on the card and what leagues they're eligible for, of course. The third and final one, guys, is you should, in my opinion, and again, this kind of comes from, we've referenced it earlier in the video, but quite a common question or whatever that'll come to me is about preparing for did I pick up last season's cards, did I wait until new season, etc, etc. Is there any point building a Euro team now? Is there any point building this, building that, whatever? If you're asking yourself these questions, then what you should really be doing 100% is making your base position in the global all-star D4, D3, whatever level you're at, as a hybrid situation, you know, where you're not just relying on one demographic of leagues, you know, to actually mean you can field a team out, you know. So what I've got on screen here is my own gallery. Okay, now as you can see with MLS players, I've been picking them up like really kind of steadily, not that big a pace, you know, over the last, and again, you can just go on my gallery and look at this if you want, but I do it at my own pace, and I pick up guys when I can, if I can, at the kind of prices that at the time, if I'm happy with it and all the rest of it, you know. So I've got a lot from when MLS originally came out, and you can see there's a lot of transfers that are older than like 6-7 months. There's about 2 pages of them, and then it goes down to maybe, you can probably see on average I'm maybe picking up maybe 1 or 2 a week since like January. I think early January was maybe Higuain. Is Higuain January? I think he might be. So Higuain, we picked him up on the 8th of January. So from Higuain to now, you know how many cards we're looking at there? 6, there's 10, 14 cards over the last 4 months. So it's kind of like 1 a week or so. And yeah, so I'm always kind of running with this kind of hybrid situation of, I've always got a bit of MLS activity. I might try and sell a few, I might try and buy a few. Same when it comes to the Asian region as well. Now, as I've mentioned on my own content in the past, the Asian region isn't one I invest a lot of time or money into in terms of acquisition. Big cards aside, you know, I love my Key, I love my Obi, I love my Tani. But the rest of the guys, I'm not like, you know, I love, you know, don't get me wrong, who doesn't love a wee bit of Ayase Ueda and Eo Tanaka, really, right? There's some guys in here that are quality, but if I did have to sell them tomorrow, or decided to sell them tomorrow, you know, it wouldn't hurt me emotionally in terms of, you know, where my gallery is, because I like my gallery to be quite particular and to kind of be covering some bases. But what it would do is it would eliminate a little bit of the duality I can operate with in a global and an under 23 situation by always having a little stable of cards from here, a little stable of cards from there. And obviously I don't need to show you my gallery in terms of the European stuff. You can probably imagine I've got a fair amount of European cards between Challenger and Champion. But the point being, if you're starting, you might only have 2 cards, you might have 20 cards, but as you're picking them up, again, kind of comes back to points earlier in the video, but I wouldn't let these ever-changing circumstances affect you. If it's the right player and he fits your gallery and he fits your strategy, then don't worry about what region he's in, don't worry about don't worry about what region he's in, don't worry about what month we're in that respect. As long as you're doing all your, you know, you're laying out a fun strategy that you can engage with and you can develop, and then you're doing the backup research on the targets that you're going out and acquiring, then like I say, I wouldn't worry about what time of the year it is. I wouldn't worry about losing the season bonus, buying them today. Yeah, there's always going to be a cheaper price to pick somebody up. I'll show you a really good example. Now I'm going to use the boy Dorsch as an example. Okay, so Dorsch is an under 23 card. He'll still be under 23 next season. He's a German under 21 international. He's playing a pretty poor team now in Ghent. Okay, now the scores for Dorsch, you know, throughout the season have been very good. If you haven't seen them, go check out his SoRare data page. I'll maybe even just show you that in a second. But when you look at how cheap he's kind of going for now, he has went for a little bit cheaper before in terms of, you know, not just in fiat currency but also in Ether. But these guys, they will go down in price as we get towards the end of the season, and they'll probably go down a little bit further just at the end of the season. But what you're not really able to forecast is a few different things. Number one, when does it kind of stop? When do most people try and pick up again for next season? Because the European off season isn't really that long. I think it's like 3 months or something, because they've got to step up the calendar for the Qatar Winter World Cup the following year. So I don't think the summer break is really actually that big. You would also expect there's probably going to be some kind of uplift in terms of more users coming on the platform. You've then got to factor in any potential movement Ether could do, any increase to prizes, etc, etc, etc. So the point being is really powerful cards that are very good, you know, that do score really well, they will only go down so far. And when you're trying to think ahead of, should I maybe try and maybe wait for the off season? Is it better strategically for me to buy this person at the cheapest possible price in 2 months from now, not use them for SO5 until the next season? Or the difference in price that I'm forecasting and hoping and praying that I get in 2 months from now, the difference between that and where the price is the cheapest available today, what is that? And then do you know what? Could I actually bridge that gap with having that card in my gallery now, actually deployed in SO5, actually deployed in maybe pushing me up the leaderboard to try and pull in some cards? If that situation happens and it pulls you in, you've got a very good friend of the channel, SoRare Ross, got 2 super rares in on the last day of the J League season and won the division, you know, on the very last day. So that's obviously very good and, you know, very fortunate for Ross, and we high five him for that. But that's a bold strategy, you know. You're getting people in and you're accepting you're going to have the down season. You're accepting already that you might get them a wee bit cheaper in 2 or 3 months. But if you back the players and you want them, you can afford them, then you really do want them working for you as quickly as possible. So I wouldn't let that deter you, as long as I say, it's in line with your strategy that you've set out, and it's in line with your financial capabilities, of course. I wouldn't let this kind of thing deter you, because the opportunity cost, I think you call it, for maybe sitting and waiting for the price to go down, and it might stop, it might not actually go down that much more in relative terms. That's what you've got to try and judge and work out. Thanks a lot, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Just about to come on screen now, it's a few other videos I've made. Hopefully you'll like them as well. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, retweet, all that good stuff, guys. Stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.